I noticed, like, I think I'm in my later years, I'm kind of figuring out that I think I'm neurodivergent. I'm pretty sure at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the speaking in tongues, I honestly think there was a connection to me with the speaking in tongues. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And I really think it was because it was like stemming for me. Do you know what stemming is in the
Yeah.
autistic world?
Yeah, my son is autistic.
Okay, so it felt like to me, even back then, when I was trying to speak in tongues so hard, I mean, I could do it right now for you, and it would sound exactly the same. And there's no spirituality behind it. It's just me mumbling words, mumbling sounds. And I
And
really
I
think
feel like in some of those churches, like being able to do it, like, because you're supposed to have a gift,
right.
whatever your spiritual gift is. And
Yeah.
so then like the people that can speak in tongues are like held at like a different level than other people.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
then there's like, they're more holy, they're closer to God, you
Yeah.
know. So the church I went to didn't speak in tongues, but they did the laying of hands. And I thought, oh, that shit really, it creeped me out.
Yeah, as a child, I was walking around putting blankets over the legs of the women who were slain in the spirit at the altar. I, as a child, not even knowing what was happening. It's just, to me, I fully believe that to force children into a religion is child abuse. I said it.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Catholic, and someone in my chat just said, "Well, I'm Catholic, and it's not a cult." And I'm like, "Well, when you get out, you'll you'll figure it out." Um, but yeah, I can relate to a lot of that. I mean, and I think, like you were saying, that when you have something that tells you what to do, that's why after years in the Catholic Church, was yearning for something else, because my whole life was like, do these things and you'll get to heaven, and like, be this good person and you'll get your glory, and like when that's not there, you feel like,
What's it all for, kind of thing.
exactly, yeah.
But here, what I did, what it allowed me to do was, once I hit that question, what's it all for? Because now everything I believed is not true. So what now?
I know, and I
And
think,
I'm sorry, what it did for me is it allowed me to reconnect to myself, because
yes,
because you're taught to die to
yes,
yourself all the time.
and you're
So what I
supposed to
did
not
is that,
rely on
and
yourself.
right, rely not to your own understanding, but in
Yes,
all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And so here's the thing about that, though. I was so disconnected from my own body that in order to get back in touch with it, I had to start doing yoga and meditation together. And I could do just meditation and it was helping, and I could do some yoga and it was making me feel good. But when I put those two things together, it's like it connected my mind and my body back together. And now I know the things that I like. I know what kind of deodorant I want to pick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I know myself now.
I
And
remember.
before I was disconnected.
I
So,
I'm glad that you found a way to like get back to that. That's so powerful. I'm glad that you found a way to like heal from that. Like I know for
it's taken years and I'm still
I know
doing it, but
for me, I mean, we left in 2018 and I have never had a friend group since. Like the whole experience left me so shattered. I don't know that I could welcome people into my life on that level anymore because of how um deceived I was, and like how taken advantage I felt,
yeah.
and like what I exposed my son to. And I was like, I don't, I just, we don't have friends anymore. And
Yeah.
that was the hardest part, was walking away, is like not having that friend group, and then realizing the whole friend group is only there because you go to a church. And then you're like, well, that's effed up,
Yeah.
and but then I also had to like not talk to them because I felt like if I did, they would try to suck me back in.
Mhm.
But like you, I remember, like, because I used to like pray in the shower all the time. That was like one of my quiet time, and I'd always be praying for the people in my life that were causing me like stress. And I I remember one day and I was like, I became an atheist. And I,
Yep. Me
and I
too.
said, and I was like, you know what the best thing is I'm not relying on some sky daddy with this predetermined blueprint. And it's up to me to make my own decisions. And I don't have to
Yes.
rely on anyone else.
Yes, Katie. And you know what? I started doing pottery. That's one thing I started doing was hobbies that I always wanted to try. And I started doing pottery. And in the church, they would always say, "You're the clay and God is the potter. Let him mold you and make you into what he wants you to be." But now, in doing pottery, it is so flipped. And I have realized, and I even say it out loud sometimes, I'm the creator. I'm the effing creator.
Yeah.
I will create my life into what I want it to be.
Yeah.
And once I had that power, it was like everything changed. It was like I could see the beauty of the world again
Yep.
without a God, without the promise of heaven, or I could just see it all. I could see it and I
Yes.
could enjoy it.
I wanted to do good things because I wanted to do good things.
Yes, because
Not
I'm a good person.
right, not because I needed to be more like Jesus.
Right, right.
Like I wanted it to come from a place of like empathy and compassion and like I care, not because if I do this, then I'll show other people that I'm being like Jesus. Like
I'll get the reward. I'll get the
yes,
prize.
and that was always this that was always stressed to us at that church is like you need to model your life like Jesus, you need to be more like Jesus, you need to show the love of Jesus. And it's such pressure because you're like, well, if I'm not doing this right or if I'm not doing that right, but then you start looking at what everyone's doing and they're only doing it because if they do it, they think they're going to go to heaven.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you're really not doing it for the right reasons.
No. No, it turns into a business transaction.
And
That's
you're
all it
doing
is.
it to recruit for them.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that the feeling of not having to proselytize anymore,
Yes.
like having to knock on doors as a teenager, having to go to acquire the fire events and pass out tracts and, walk the streets and, and ask people if they know Jesus. Like, I don't have to do that stuff anymore. Like, every time I met a person back then, my first thought was, am I meeting this person because I'm supposed to lead them to Christ?
Yeah.
And now when I meet a person, it's, oh, I wonder where they come from. Oh, I wonder what they're into.
Yeah.
I wonder about them.
Yeah.
And that's why empathy is greater outside of the church for me.
Yeah. Me too. Oh, I'm so glad. Well,
Me
we're
too.
both survivors of Pentecostalism, so I see you. We didn't hand out tracts. Thank God. I think if I would have handed out tracts, people would have thought I was like bananas. But
Oh, people did think I was bananas. Girl, let me tell you this one, and I got to go, but I'll tell you this. One day as a teenager in high school, I believe I was a junior, and the jock of the school, I was in a small town, and the jock of the school was making fun of me for being a virgin. And I was just giving him the what for, and I was Christ-like, and I was going to stay a virgin until I got married, and I was giving him the holy word.
yeah.
Even stood up and told him, I called him my name, and I said, at any point in my life, I can become just like you, but you can never again be like me. I thought I really slammed him. I
Yeah.
went home, and I was tormented for the rest of that junior high school year because of that. But I stood my ground because what I did in my head, I did for God.
Yeah.
And it's almost like back then it caused me friendships, and then when I leave the religion, it caused me friendships.
Right. I isolated myself from people that were friends in my neighborhood because I got so fucking weird, like
Yeah. Well, I just, I'm going to be weird. So if I'm going to lose friends anyway, I'm just going to be me. So,
so I lost my neighborhood friends and then I lost my church friends and then I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like
yeah.
I can't have friends because
Yeah,
apparently
right.
everything I do is wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, I became my own best friend, and I'm a hell of a friend. I'll tell you that.
I love that. That makes me happy.
Okay. I got to go. Thank you for letting me come up, Katie. I'm
You're
so glad to
welcome.
talk to you. And thank you
Yeah.
for all the years of reporting and all the things
Oh.
that you do. I appreciate you a great
Well,
deal.
thank you for sharing your story, Sissy. I really appreciate that.
Talk to y'all later.
Bye. Okay. Let me. I want to like finish off with a bang. So, um, friendships are like I don't even know how to have friends now. I'm like, oh, I screwed up every aspect of my life, so I don't know how to do friends anymore.
I don't know how to do them either. People keep ghosting me, or they just flat out leave me somewhere. So I'm like, okay, I do not know how to have friends.
Okay, I want to do one last surge here. Um, can we do a push here? Oh, I miss Faith. I wish she was back.
Yeah, I messaged her, and at the time on when I did, it said she was on 37 minutes ago, but I haven't heard from her.
Okay, I want to do one last thing. I want to do these. Oh, kitty.
We are talking, and she doesn't like that I'm trying to figure out my makeup for the wedding. And she
Oh,
wants
is
to
the
be on
wedding
the.
tonight?
Oh, no, 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 no. It's on the 12th, but I just like getting prepared so that way I'm not stressed of how to do it.
Oh, that makes sense.
No, she's my little bathroom buddy.
That was like an amazing conversation.
That was good.
Lala, you should come up and talk about the Petrie train. Tell me what happened. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I want to know the tea. I'm
I
very
do
interested.
too. Like, what happened with this whole thing?
I wanted them to go after Gypsy for what she was doing, but I guess like the team disbanded. I don't know.
That often happens though when you start adding in social media and like you get in people's ears and then you get content creators that are like fighting over you and it just creates chaos.
True that.
But then there was stuff like I said that like I was very conflicted about the things that I was being told. I don't believe that anyone is suing Gypsy. I mean, that was what was being discussed back in December, but like they can't sue for like wrongful death. The statute of limitations is way beyond that. The only thing they could sue for is defamation in her book, but she'll just say that it was from her best of her knowledge, you know. Her grandpa could sue her, but he's like really old. I don't know if they even have like I think that I feel like if they would have wanted to do something for Dee Dee, they would have done it. And it wouldn't have taken Gypsy to write a book for them to do something to honor her life. And they wouldn't have needed to do it by going onto social media. And if they wanted to, if they had ever wanted to honor her life, they would have. But they didn't because she stole from them. She ripped them off. She stole their identities and took out credit cards in their names. And they, you know, she was kicked out of multiple houses because she was stealing money from her dad and from her brothers. And like, you know, they they had been so estranged from her that I don't think they had talked to her in like years. I think Claudia said she talked to her maybe a couple times in the last year before she passed and like but I don't know. they were just estranged.
Oh, there's Scarlett.
Yeah. Such a mess. And then it was weird because I kind of got weirded out a little bit by Dinah. Because she's like married to, not married, like she's in a long-term relationship with one of the brother's sons. But she had never met Dee Dee. So I thought it was just strange, like why she was advocating for someone she had never met. Even though like it was his son's, her husband's aunt. I don't know. And then she was trying to build a social media out of it. So then I was like, are you here to advocate or are you trying to build a social media? It confused me. And then, you know, if people are upset at Gypsy profiting, then they're turning around. It's just such a cycle. Like, that's the thing. It's like the endless cycle. Hi, Scarlett. She can come up and tell me what happened. Someone with a S. And so then I got a message from someone this morning, and they were like, Dinah sent me a cease and desist, and the whole Petrie train is blown up, and you don't even know what happened, and it's been done blown up, and like everyone is talking in like code. That's how I feel. It's very weird.
Yeah, I didn't really stick with their stories too well because there were some things that they said in the very, very beginning where I was like, I don't like these people's character, so I kind of just muted out everything that they were saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole culture that's just very different, and I don't know if it's because it's the Bayou or if it's just that family. I don't know. Kind of feels like it's a Bayou thing though, because it's like Christy's family's like that, Rod's family's like that, Gypsy's family's like, or the Petries are like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to keep everyone together. Like, I keep forgetting who's who, who's related, who is a friend, who's the other bystander.
Okay, hold up. Lala's going to come up and clarify.
Okay.
Nope, nobody needs to be trashed. I wasn't expecting anyone to trash. But she says she's going to clarify what happened because Lala got sucked into it. I watched them suck her up. Hi, Lala.
How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. I wouldn't necessarily say, like I was sucked up because I mean, I did it free willingly and I'm an adult. I'm 41 years old. But I mean, I'm not up here to trash anyone. I'm just going to clarify like what happened. There was a Petrie train. There was a group text that was part of the Petrie train, and I'm only going to speak for Nellie and myself. Like, we had doubts when things weren't being done. We weren't allowed to bring up Gypsy. We weren't allowed to bring up the Blanchards and stuff like that. Stuff like the main things that we wanted to focus on wasn't allowed to be spoken about. And it not necessarily wasn't allowed. It's just that, like when we did ask questions, they went unanswered.
So what do you mean? Like, what was the goal of the group text?
The goal was to, I mean, I wouldn't say there was a goal for the group text. The goal for the Petrie train was, to get Dee Dee justice and, do a vigil or, a memorial and just like, try to help the Petrie family in any way that we could. But, like it got into us just going live just about random things when most of us just wanted to talk about Gypsy and, like researching the case more, like taking a deep dive. We had somebody else that joined the train and, they were doing a lot of things behind the scenes, like contacting Netflix, contacting attorneys, like if anybody would pick up the case, to put a stop to Gypsy earning funds. And, maybe I wouldn't say that this wasn't about, just even if that happened, it would have been a plus. Like, the family, if anybody should be able to earn any money off of the case, it should be Dee Dee's family, her blood.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that that was what the goal was, because it wasn't.
So what happened?
I mean, there's a person on this app that everybody knows about that ended up going on lives and making videos saying that we were part of the 25 and we were talking with Christy and this and that. And then, like that's when everything kind of went downhill.
Part of the 25, what's that mean?
There's a person that was on this app that has been in photos recently with Gypsy that everyone knows about that said that there was a specific 25 people that were part of Gypsy's crew and were playing both sides.
Woo woo
Yeah.
bestie.
Yeah, and I got included in on that. And like that's when I'm like, no. And that's when a lot of us were like, no, enough is enough. Like we're not going to get accused of working with Christy or Gypsy.
So woo woo blew this up, or I'm confused?
I mean, it was going downhill before then, but that was just like the icing on the cake.
So you weren't able to get questions answered by the Petries? Oh,
Panel, and she like answered some questions for us that night. She answered questions for everybody.
wait, I'm sorry, you cut out there for a minute. What were you saying?
It wasn't necessarily that. I mean, we never got to speak to the sisters personally, all of us
Yeah.
that were on the train.
Yeah.
We were able to get, my bad, I don't even think it was Claudia. It was Dorla. We were able to get her on panel one night. And she was on panel, I think, for a good hour and a half. And she came up and she answered some questions for us. And then that was the end of it.
So they were talking about how they were going to sue and do all these things, and none of that happened?
We never got it as far as like us that, decided to part ways. It never got to that point to where we could get to that because everyone was so hung up on things that really didn't matter.
Why is no one talking to Dinah? Like, what happened with that?
We still, like I said, I'm just speaking for myself and a little bit for Nellie. We are cordial with her. We don't mind going up on panel with her here and there. We believe, there were certain people in the group that just wanted to control everything. And that's why things went left. We're all just being adults and being able to apologize to each other. And we just know that when we go on a panel with her or talk to her about something, we know what to expect. And like I said, I'm speaking for Nellie and I, when we talk about it on the phone, not even on live, we're going way deeper than what anybody else wanted to go. Like we have our own theories. Like Maybe Gypsy was what she said happened to her, but maybe it wasn't the grandfather. Maybe it was somebody else in the family. You see what I'm saying? Like, we wanted to discuss theories and topics that nobody else wanted to talk about. That's all that it was.
And that had, but members of the family were involved in that chat, right?
No, just Dinah.
Oh. So you and Nellie and Dinah and Adrian and Nanny?
Yes, and there was others too.
Oh, I don't even know who the other people would have been. Okay. Well, okay, so I guess I can kind of understand that, like, it there isn't really a benefit in speculating on somebody else in the family. It's a pretty, I don't know if that would have been helpful. So I guess I can kind of see why they wouldn't want to talk about that. I don't believe anything happened to her. In that
Right. I see that theory as well too. Like, yeah, I get that. Like, no, like, I can talk about my family, but nobody else is going to stand in a room and talk about my family. Like, I get all that. But you know, like we just discussed, like any theory with any case. I mean,
So I kind of see where this might have gone wrong. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just watching this from a bird's eye view. Maybe though, I don't know. Who was giving pushback about talking about theories though? What, I'm confused.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily like pushback. Like, it was
Okay.
like, so, and that's their prerogative. If like somebody wants to host a live and they don't want to discuss Gypsy and they don't want to discuss this, they're allowed to do that.
No, Gypsy does not display hate behavior of that. Gypsy displays behavior of her genetic microdeletion, which causes hypersexualization. It's a known part of her microdeletion. She doesn't show signs of someone who's been SA'd.
She would act the complete opposite.
Yeah. She acts hypersexual, which is a part of her disorder. It's also a byproduct of like histrionic or borderline. I don't know. It's one of those. Okay. So I'm getting the vibe that Nanny was trying to control stuff or something.
No, I'm not saying that. No.
Oh, okay. Well, why is she saying that everyone's on TikTok lying about her? Like, I don't even know.
Give me 1 second. I'm dealing with something. I might have to come back.
Okay. I'm still like not understanding what happened. Does anyone in the chat understand what happened? Were you here when this happened? I feel like I'm more confused
Same.
than I was before she came up. I kind of understand if people in the family were, my impression with them was that they didn't want to talk about Gypsy because they didn't want to amplify her. They didn't care about amplifying her. It was about Dee Dee. I also can understand why they wouldn't want to speculate about other people in the family because you don't openly speculate about that kind of stuff. Because you're throwing out an accusation at someone that could be innocent, no different than people trying to say like David Blanchard was the schmurderer, right? Like, it's just, you don't want to attach those kinds of claims to people. So I can understand that. And if the family's already hurting with the accusations with Claude, I could also see why they wouldn't want to add further fuel to the fire and speculate that it was someone else. So I can recognize the hesitation with that. I don't think it's beneficial or even helpful to have that kind of conversation. But theories, I guess maybe you'd have to do the theories with the people not in the group text then, maybe. I don't know. When I talked to them, it felt like their goal very much was to not talk about Gypsy. Like, they didn't want to talk about Gypsy. because they felt like Gypsy had ruined their lives. A guy named Papa Bugs was causing the division. Hold on, I gotta fix my hair. I don't know who Papa Bugs is. He was weird and controlling. You remember when the split happened? Oh, Lala just left. He took over the panels. I think a lot of people got, I mean, they saw dollar signs, right? They saw like an opportunity with the family. I certainly was not comfortable being in that position. I didn't want to feel like I was exploiting anyone. But I also knew that I couldn't dedicate time to one cause. And I had a lot of questions sincerely about why they would need a memorial for her now. Why didn't you do one then? Why didn't you do one at any time in the last 10 years? Why does it need to be public? If you want to honor your sister or your loved one, why did you wait 10 years? And why do you need to add the internet into that conversation? To me, it's one of the most sacred moments you can have in a family is going to a funeral or going to a memorial. And they were all estranged from her. And whether or not they believed her to be doing what she did to Gypsy, they all knew she was a scam artist. They all knew she did this for a scam. So many of them were just looking the other way because it's what so many people down there do. They run scams to like Sue Borderlawn, who met her down in New Orleans, said everyone knew that this is what they did, and she was doing it to make money and to provide for Gypsy, and they all knew it was a scam, and it was fine because that's how she got stuff for Gypsy, to spoil her and give her the life that she wanted. A lot of them knew it was a scam, parts of it at least. And then I'm just like, you think you know, Sue, I'm from Louisiana. They had enough money to have a memorial. They did. They had enough money. And they didn't. They thought what Dee Dee was doing with the charity stuff was 100% a scam. That's documented. She was ripping off and defrauding charities. That's documented. It's just a con. Malingering is a con. Parts of them were sick, but they were running a con, and people in the family didn't talk to her because she stole money from them. I live 5 minutes up the road from them. Come up. Oh, she doesn't want to come up. Oh, you are up.
Hi.
Hi.
How are y'all?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
So do you live in Cutoff or do you live in Meadow, whatever, Golden Meadows?
I live in Galliano, which is like, like right there. I'm like
Okay.
right, yeah.
Okay. Because aren't they all like in a little clump?
It's basically a line. Like if you
Okay.
think of just driving up the road to like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's literally just up like I am about 5 minutes from the grandparents' house.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, girl. And they like the grandparents, they have like this big like lighthouse in the yard. They
Yeah.
have like all kinds of crazy stuff in their yard.
Yeah. It's like decked out. It's like,
It is like, oh Lord. Yeah, I'm from down the bayou. What they say, up the bayou, down the bayou. Yeah.
so what do you know about them?
I just know what I see online, really.
Oh,
I stay to myself. I'm not, I don't really know much about them just from, what I've heard and, like the gossip and the rumors and stuff like that. But yeah, it's, it's crazy. What was that mobile thing? Like, that's what I didn't like.
oh, I don't know. I wasn't.
You didn't
Everyone
know
wants to
that?
talk about the billboard, and I just don't care about it.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on with that? That's weird. I don't know very much, really. Just, what I've heard from your live or, like
Yeah.
other people's lives and stuff. I don't think I've ever even met Gypsy. you
Oh,
know?
really?
Yeah, like
I don't
I
think.
stay to myself and, I don't get caught up in all that crazy drama. I just like to listen to it.
Got it.
Yeah. And like it's weird sometimes, like I get a little vibe like passing by the house, like I'm like, oh, but it's
Passing by the grandpa's house.
yeah, like I get a little I don't know, I get vibes about people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a vibe gal, and I get a little like you kind of know you pass by it kind of thing. Like it's hard not to see it too with all their stuff in their yard. But
Does it look like trashy, or does it look like
no, I wouldn't say like trashy. I just say they were like collectors of different things.
hoarders?
Not like hoarder necessarily. Like it's not a bunch of like rundown things. It's a bunch of like little decorations and different things like that. And my daughter will be like, "Mom, isn't that Gypsy's grandparents' house?" I'm like, "Yeah, girl." She's 14, so she's like, "Oh, it's kind of interesting to her." But then I was like, "Do you know what happened?" Like what happened to the lady. She was like, no, not really. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, we're not going out down this road. But like I guess she thought it was a little cool. We had somebody, around here that did, because we don't have, like a lot of murders and stuff. Maybe now, but because the
But
drugs.
that didn't happen there, right? It happened in Missouri.
Correct. Yeah. So I was like, girl, let me tell you, we're gonna go. We'll have a little conversation. But yeah, like I don't see them like their family. I never seen really Gypsy, like out and about. I don't know if she's, like goes out much into the community and stuff because I haven't seen her. But like Christy and stuff, I have family that knows them and things like that. Like I've met her maybe once or twice, and that was, just in passing, not like, oh, let's go hang out. Let's go hang out with them. But yeah, like I don't know very much. I just like to listen, and kind of in my head, I listen, but I do judge, to
You listen,
myself.
but you do judge. Okay.
No. I find everybody has their, opinion, and what she did was, absolutely wrong. And, you know, I guess I feel like, she served her time. She did her, she's, I don't know. I guess I just like to listen and hear everybody's side. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
just gonna listen to one side. I like to get everybody's side. Give somebody a fair chance. She is still a human at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like she is still a human being, and I guess too, like out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? Like it didn't happen to me. Things have happened in our family, and I just feel like she served her time. She did what she had to do, and I don't think coming to social media should have been the first things to do. Get some therapy or whatever. Like, but I just stay to myself, and I just like to listen to everybody's side.
Well, I appreciate you sharing what you think.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we're all humans at the end of the day, and not give grace, like, but I'm all about peace and loving good vibes. I'm a little hippie over here, so yeah, I like to stay neutral. I'm a neutral person. I don't like to go and have that emotional reaction. You know what I mean? I
Yep.
don't like to do the emotional reactions. Gets us nowhere.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you sharing your opinion, and thank you so much for coming up.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So she didn't know what I thought she knew. She's neutral, which is totally fine. I am not neutral when it comes to crimes that take other people's lives at all. But I appreciate her sharing. It sounds like she didn't have, I thought she when she said that she lived by them, I thought she was saying that she knew them. So I guess I was expecting something different, but I appreciate her coming up. Okay. Yeah. I'm not neutral on that topic. Okay, so apparently one of my goals is 2 people that have not given a gift. Can you give a heart? If you have anyone that's watching, if you haven't given any diamonds, if you haven't given one, can you give a heart? Because TikTok says I have a thing that I need to fix. And if I meet that, then I'm going to get something. I don't know what I'm going to get. But if you could, we got 200 for the little hearts. And they're only 1 diamond, which is 0.005 cents. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for that. The bayou is just a place, man. It's just a place. It's wild that people could be neutral on something like this.
I think because there's just so much information and people speaking differently, I think it's just gotten some people where they're like, it is what it is. Yes, she hears you.
Can you guys keep tapping? I've been stuck at 37.1 for a while. Yeah, for sure. I think I just know too much, maybe. Maybe that's the problem. I feel like that could be the problem. Thank you, Dark Almonds. That's the first gift you've ever sent. You're so sweet. they have all these like things that they tell you that you need to do, and it's like distracting. It's like ADHD. I have ADHD, so it's like my worst nightmare. Oh,
Little Sherbert, she won't leave me alone.
she's so cute.
Come on. Go on. Yeah. But at least it was a good conversation. But yeah, I'm kind of siding on Dee Dee, where I don't support that murder. Or schmurder. Sorry.
I think it's like she had been so disconnected from the family that, like I'm saying, like, I think the one thing, I'm not fishing for anything, Nellie. I'm trying to figure out what happened.
That's one of Bree's people.
Nellie?
I thought so.
Nellie's now a Bree person?
I didn't know. Are they? That icon looks very familiar.
If Nellie... Ugh, I'm not fishing for anything. I asked Lala what happened. And because everyone's like showing up here and telling me vague things, and like I'd rather just people like say what happened instead of like dancing around it. I honestly have no clue. And people are putting me in a really uncomfortable situation by coming into my DMs and like accusing me of things that I didn't do. If you want to come up, Nellie, and say what happened, I'm all ears. I'm not fishing. I'm just trying to understand because everyone's yelling at me, Nellie.
I don't know what they're yelling at you for.
I don't either. I feel like I'm just in the middle of something that I don't want to be in, but I'm just trying to understand what happened because I stepped away.
Right. Which I don't know what happened with all of that. I really don't. Um, I mean, we were questioned. I was questioned what happened as to why you were no longer there. And I can't answer that because I don't know.
Why I no longer was there? Well, because I stopped going on
Right.
TikTok. So I didn't, and that's where everyone was. It was, I guess I was getting very confused about what the goal was, and it felt a little bit, I don't know. I couldn't figure out what was being, it felt very like I was getting creators were showing up in my lives, sending you all messages, calling me someone that lacks no integrity, trashing me, saying I'm a horrible person. I've got you all in my DM saying you're never going to talk to this person. Then you're on his channel. And all I said to you is, I don't care where you go. I just think that if you go there, it's going to be a mess. I don't know that he had anything to do with it, but I didn't have the time or energy to dedicate to like a one man or one topic show because I have like a whole business, and I couldn't figure out what people were doing. Like it felt very like all over the place.
Okay. Because I mean, I just didn't understand. I mean, you were there and then you weren't there and then you just stopped answering texts and everything. And I was just confused as to what was going on.
I didn't get any text messages from any of you. I deleted the TikTok app off my phone because I thought it was being banned.
Okay.
I had nothing against anyone at all. I was very confused about what was happening. Like, I thought it was to help give them a voice, but then it turned into all these people going live, which I felt was very strange. I thought like, okay, so you can go live, that's fine. Whatever. It just felt like, and all these other people got pulled in. I have ADHD. I'm neurodivergent. I get very overwhelmed when there's a lot of voices. I don't like confrontation. And when there's other creators that are like talking shit about me, I don't like getting in the minute. I don't like to get into the middle of things like that. Like, I'm the kind of person that if like people start telling you about me, I'm out, because that just feels like drama to me.
I do understand the confusion. I do. That's pretty much why I stepped away from everything. Um, because a lot of it was getting convoluted, and the goal was being diverted, and I don't know. It it wasn't going the way we thought it was
Yeah.
supposed to go. Um, and the morbid's not the reason why we all split up and all of that. That was Dinah's decision, and from what I understood, the sister's decision. And I told Donna I would back her and the sisters up. Um, and yeah, it all backfired because the whole goal was to get justice for Dee Dee, to put her story out. But the more digging some of us did, the more investigating some of us did, the more things we found out. Then the infiltration started, where we were having people coming into the panels and the lives and into the onto the team, and it turned into, excuse my language, but a massive shit show.
Well,
It was
that's where
never
it was
intended
going. That's where it was
to be
going.
a shit show.
That's where it was going when I stepped away. And honestly, Nellie, when I talked to Claudia, like they didn't have good shit to say about Dee Dee. So I was very confused. Like, you know, I'm like, I understand they were upset about the book, right? And they were upset about what she was saying in the book. But it just felt like you've had 10 years and you've been on documentaries. And so is your dad.
And that's where a lot of that's where a lot of the confusion came in, because it's like there's so much flip-flopping. I mean, we call it flip-flopping, but maybe it's some kind of, dealing with emotions and dealing with what happened. But I want to make it perfectly clear. We never spoke to the sisters. The sisters never spoke to us, except for one time Dorla came on a panel. And Claudia was in the chat. But to say that we ever had any communication with the sisters, no. Everything um, that we were told or anything like that came from Dinah. Dinah was the spokesperson. She was the one that was communicating with the sisters. Um,
And I didn't think that Dinah's intentions were that amazing.
I can't say what her intentions were. I can't. I mean, because during all of this recently, I mean, from what she said in panels, her eyes have been open to a lot of things that she didn't know about either.
What do you mean?
But well, I can't speak for her. I mean, there's just some things like when the FOIAs came out and phone calls came out and all, she questioned things. Um, you
Like
know,
with Claudia on the phone
mm-hmm,
and saying like you can have the body.
yeah, it's hard to hear, you
Yeah.
know. But again, I mean, I can't speak for her, so
I mean,
I
but
can
that's
only speak for myself. I can't.
that's the
But
thing.
it was
Like Claudia told me that her sister was a thief and she stole from them. And they hadn't talked, I mean, they had talked a couple times in like the year before she died, but they had been estranged for a very long time. And like no one in the family liked her. So then
But
I
see,
was,
that's where the contradictions come in, because were they estranged for years? Because in a live chat, Dorla said that they had just seen her the year before she passed.
where?
Exactly. There were things that were contradict. Dee Dee and Gypsy went to Mississippi and spent time with them in Mississippi. There are a lot of things. That's what I'm saying. There are a lot of things that we've kept close to the chest because it's like I've questioned. Look, I'm going to be straight up, and people could come at me if they want. I was never a Gypsy supporter. From day one, I believe Gypsy was guilty. From the first day the message came out and all that on Facebook to the day she went to whatever, however, to the day she got out. I've never, ever, ever been pro Gypsy. And I've never been all the way pro Petrie either.
No.
But I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, and that was the thing.
They saw
I was on the fence.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
And I'm not talking like the whole. I'm not here. Let me clear this up. I'm not talking about Claude Jr. or
Oh.
Tate. Okay, I want that completely understood. Where my doubts came in were the three that did the documentaries
Evan,
and Evans, Claudia, and
Claudia,
Dorla.
and who?
Always, and Dorla. I always had my doubts, but mostly I must tell you that mostly it was Evans and Claudia. Those were the two that always bothered me. I think that, I mean, I'm trying to be very delicate with this because just their attitudes toward everything, the things that were said, it all seems so scripted. Like everybody talked to each other before they even did these documentaries. And our goal was, from what I understood, was justice for Dee Dee and to get her the urn, to get her memorial, and that had really nothing to do with the sisters. That had to do with Dee Dee. And I get Dee, people sit there and say, "Oh, well, Dee Dee was this horrible person," and regardless, she was a victim of a violent crime.
Well, yes.
And never in the of crime history have we ever seen a victim be continuously victimized by the perpetrator.
Hey, you guys, while she's talking about this, you can help so that I don't get reported by tapping to get me another layer of protection by getting me up to 50K. And then also, if you could help, if you start hearing glitches, go to the exclusive gifts and click on the popular. It's only one diamond, and that will help us. Thank you so much. Okay, continue.
Okay. And the thing is all the twists and the turns and the manipulations and
this
is the craziest case I've ever heard of. And I'm not a creator like you or anything but I mean, I've watched true crime and been interested in it, geez, forever and a day. I mean, before internet even came out, I would read books about it, and different things like that. But this is completely insane. So when Lala was up here and she was saying like we were throwing theories out there, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know what the sisters told you, what Claudia told you, what you've heard, and all of that. But I'm gonna put this out here right now. There are things that people think they know about what went on down here on the bayou, okay? But y'all don't even know. When I started talking to people, really started talking to people from here, and I'm not talking about people, who are like in their 30s and 40s. I'm talking about people who are older than me, from the neighborhood, people in the medical industry, and started really talking to people and everything. It's like there's a reason why nobody sued. There's a reason why nobody really looked into anything and all that, because there are secrets that are deeper than you could ever imagine about everything. The medical industry here, the families here, and those are not secrets that are mine to tell.
There's a lot of fraud.
But that blew me away. But it's not just, there's a lot of fraud. Definitely a lot of fraud.
But there's
And as
also
much as I've tried to help.
But there's also a lot of people with charges in that family, and I'm sure being public puts them in a position where that becomes a thing that people start talking about too, right? And so I think people have trepidation of like, if I expose myself, then what is going to get exposed about me, right?
Right, but well, here's the thing. Just so everybody knows, the reason why they don't sue is because they can't sue because they wrote letters to get her out. So how
Mm,
is it going to look when you go before a judge saying, "Oh, I know I'm suing because she shouldn't be making money off of my deceased sister, and she, wrongful death and all this other stuff," when you're writing letters to get her out on her
no,
behalf. You can't.
no,
That's
not
well.
all of
That's what I'm gonna, because an attorney was consulted, an attorney was talked to. But see, that's something else people don't know about, or very few people know
well,
about.
I can tell
It was discussed, and they were told. This is what we were told. We were told that they, first of all, they defended her.
yep,
They went with the narrative
yep,
about Dee Dee. They went public with the narrative about Dee Dee.
yep,
They claimed, that Gypsy was right, and they justified what she did.
yep.
And wrote letters to attorneys. They wrote letters to judges. They wrote letters to the governor,
Oh,
and all this
oh,
stuff on behalf of Gypsy.
in the very beginning, yes, yes. They wrote,
Also, for her parole hearing, there
mm,
were letters written. Oh, yes, ma'am, there was. Yes, ma'am,
really?
there was. Yes, ma'am. It's been hidden, but yes, ma'am, they did.
Okay. No, no, Gypsy said that they didn't.
So if you,
Okay.
she's just trying to cover for them. See, that's the thing about it. They all against each other, but cover for each other because that's what I say. It's so convoluted and so confusing how all of this is what's going on. But at the same time, you got to understand. No, they up until like when she went before the parole board, there were 3 family members that we know of for a fact that wrote letters for her
Yeah,
to get
well,
off her on
so, I
early
mean,
parole.
here's the thing. I think they got conned by Gypsy.
It doesn't matter if it's a con or not, but that won't hold in a court
I know that. I know. But
before a judge saying, "Well, no, we won't now. She's making money. She was making money before. Why you didn't do this before?" No, you were hoping she would get out and she would make all this money and include you, and she didn't. She turned her back on them. You see where
well,
I'm going?
well, that's because no. I mean, to a degree, yes, but things okay, so I was around when a lot of this stuff was happening, and I will say that like one of the sticking points with them, with specifically with Christy, was that right before she got out, Dorla started posting stuff about Gypsy, right? And that she didn't believe her and she didn't support her. And then Gypsy had a falling out with her cousin Tiffany, I think. And then there was Claudia definitely admitted that she was like, Claudia told me that she felt like she had been lied to by Gypsy.
All right, but that was all after she got out.
Well, yeah, because they didn't have the like, I don't know. I don't know. To me, it felt like they only cared until she started accusing Claude. That's what I got out of it. Like they didn't want her to accuse Claude of doing something.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. They were all fine and dandy with her saying and doing all these things until she got out and all the promises that were made were broken.
Yeah.
And that's where it became a problem because we didn't know these things. You know, it's like, don't try using now. Okay, so it's like, okay, it's okay for Gypsy to do all these things and talk about our sister and all of that, as long as when she gets out, what the things that she promised us, she gives us. And that's why I think it was like all of a sudden, well, oh, well, wait a minute, now we got to do this. Now we want to be a part of the Justice for Dee Dee part.
No, well, I don't
I'm
know.
not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that's what it looks like.
With Claudia, what she told me was that she believed Gypsy and she wanted to support her because she's all that she had left of her sister, right? And she told me that she believed Gypsy when Gypsy would, but she would say something and then something would happen and it would prove that what Gypsy said wasn't truthful, right? And I understood her when she said that, because I can understand that I can't understand the trauma of trying to understand what it would be like to have a loved one murdered. But I know that there's a lot of denial and there's a lot of coping that has to be done to understand why someone would do that, right? But Gypsy manipulated a lot of people. And Claudia said to me that she felt like Gypsy had become her sister, but 100 times worse.
Okay.
Like the same kind of manipulative stuff that she experienced with Dee Dee, she was going through with Gypsy. I never got the sense from Claudia that she had ill intentions. I think I got the sense that she felt like she had been conned.
She had been conned to, okay. Okay, what everybody needs to realize though is that you can get a feeling, you can get a gut feeling, you can get this and you can get that. Okay, and we've all been conned despite a gut feeling. But every last one of these people are liars. All of them are liars.
That's what Fancy says.
Straight up. All of them are liars. They will tell you what they think you want to hear, and they're very good at it. And Darla, in my opinion, is the only one who doesn't do that. And I'm talking about out of those three. Tate and Claude have stayed out of it for a reason. And it's not because they're worried about secrets coming out. It's because they don't want to have nothing to do with this. Because it's a mess. And I think, honestly, they don't even know who to believe in it. But the fact is this, I think that they all sell a story.
Of course they
do.
do.
To cover their own ass. To cover their own ass. And that's where, when it all started coming to light, everything got confused, because then we've got infighting. This one's talking about that one's talking about this one. We're being attacked by everybody. Oh, well, they're included. We were being accused of being a part of the Blanchard crew. We were being accused of having helping the Petries and the Blanchards to make money, that we were in it for the money. And I mean, if everybody wants my $8.04, y'all can have it, because that's not what it was about. And the morbid thing, I don't need that was like such a mess. That was such a mess.
All I will say about the whole memorial thing and getting her an urn, I didn't buy that bullshit. Because if Claudia and Dorla wanted to get her an urn, they had 10 fucking years.
Right. You're right. And that's where I, again, I was split, because, okay, in my mind, I'm trying to justify it and think to myself, well, grief has no time limit. Maybe that's what it's about. But then when they got the urn, she's still sitting in a box and all of that. And I'm like, there's something just not right with any of it. Something's not right.
Be bothered to go to Missouri for a single day of Nick's trial. Not one person spoke as a victim impact for Dee Dee at his sentencing. Not one.
Because they didn't care.
They didn't care then, and they don't care now. They don't. They didn't care about her then. They didn't like her. Everyone hated her. You can have, and that's where I got when she started telling me about their relationship and how people thought about Dee Dee and what a piece of shit Dee Dee was. I'm like, then why am I here?
Because it wasn't about the sisters. Well, for me, it wasn't about the sisters getting justice. It was about Dee Dee getting justice.
Well, Dee Dee's
And
never.
it was hard for me to reconcile that in my head. It was hard for me to reconcile that in my head. And that's why I think when it all started to go to shit, I'm like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And
No
when
wonder
we
Dee Dee
realized,
didn't. No one. Hold up. No wonder Dee Dee left them all. No, Dee Dee stole from all of them, and it's in the freaking court records. She has so many charges, so many in so many different parishes. She stole from her brother. She stole from her dad. She stole from like random people. She stole from everyone.
but do you understand why she did those things?
Because
And when she started doing those things?
Rod didn't pay child support.
And her family wouldn't help her
Well, it's not their
unless there was something in it for them.
Well, come on now.
Well, no, it's not their I'm not saying it's their responsibility, but family does have a tendency to stick together.
Not my
And there
family.
was no support system after Emma Loy's passed. There was nothing. I mean,
That's
we've had this discussion.
well, I mean, but that happens. Like, I think there was a lot of disconnect and competition with those kids, and
Oh,
I
definitely.
think they had a lot of anger because Dee Dee was spoiled and got things that they didn't get. And she was Emma's, favorite. And then I think that Dee Dee grew up very entitled and didn't have a lot of work ethic personally. And that bothered them, like older siblings when they see the younger sibling getting what they didn't get. But then she turns out to be a liar and a manipulative, and she tells and spins stories, and she's a lot like her mom.
They all were.
I mean, they all lie. All of them do. That's why it's like you can't rely on anyone from the family to tell the truth about any of it. But when I'm talking to Claudia
I
and she's,
know.
and
And
she's telling me that like nobody likes Dee Dee, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm here then. There was ones that were less than 100, but she had so many charges. And she had an outstanding warrant in Lafouche until the day she died. And then it was closed.
Bill wasn't that a misdemeanor?
At one point she was charged with a felony and then it got dropped out. But, Rod was charged with felony aggravated assault.
All right.
And Claudia she had an aggravated assault charge too.
But
And
you won't hear about that.
no, and Tate Sr. has charges for domestic violence. Like
Correct.
beating his wife.
Yeah.
So, and Dinah so flippantly just acted like this is normal. Like we all have charges like that. No, that's not normal.
So she knew about it? You had talked to her about it?
Well, no, but she said like if you looked into my history, you'd see shit on me too. Like this is just what we do down here, and I'm like, this is not what.
No. No, that's not. No. And that's another issue I have is like make everybody look like we're all a bunch of felons. I don't have a record, never had a record, never none
And
of that.
this is the same thing that like Fancy has been saying for years about them, and that's why they don't like her, because she knows they lie.
Well, I get that, but Fancy goes a little bit too hard because
Well,
she wants to, the thing is she wants to put us all in this bucket and like we're a bunch of crabs just knocking each other down. You know, the whole thing with the crab in the bucket thing. And
Yeah.
not all of us are like that.
No.
I'm sorry. And I'm about had enough of being, you know, like, oh no, you were in every conversation me and Diana ever had. No, that's baloney. Because there are things that, you know, I found out after that. It's like, no, mm-mm. I don't like being grouped into any of those things. I mean, I get guilt by association, but that was not my intention. Yes, I get it. I've said things about Dee Dee, and I will stand by what I said about her. The My thing is, it's the crime, and it's what happened, and what's happened since then that is totally disgusting.
Well, I just think a lot
And
of people in the family don't want to put themselves out there because of their own criminal histories.
what's so fucking funny, Suzette?
Oh, wasn't
Because
Suzette
remember, because remember, you're the one who said that she tried to steal your boyfriend. So don't go there with me, sweetheart.
Suzette blocked me?
Really? Well, she's in your chat.
What the hell? She blocked me and told people on Morbid's panel that I was a piece of shit and like
Yeah, well, she said the same thing about me, and she said the same thing about Morbid.
I think that I don't know. All I know is they
The
have
thing is a lot of us got sucked into this case and have been villainized for just trying to do something right, and it turned out again to be a shit show.
because both sides of the family are shit shows.
I totally agree. And I will say this: uh, when you left, disappeared, whatever, first thing I thought of was she found out something from Claudia and she backed off.
And I did. Like
And yeah,
I don't want to fight for someone that doesn't like, you know, I'm not going to come up here and preach all day and say that like Dee Dee was this innocent victim. She was not. And I don't like the scapegoating or the minimizing they do for her where they say, well, she had a child and she was special needs. Like, then she could have gone to fucking work. There's a million other things she could have done. Right?
well, at one time I mean, she did work. She was a waitress or a cook at PJ's Pub in Golden Meadows. She did that for a little while. Um, I mean, I'm not trying to justify what she did because what she did was wrong.
The thing with Dee Dee is that she stole from a lot of people. And my issue with them both collectively is the fraud they perpetuated on the special needs communities
Right.
and the people with disabilities. And I wouldn't, I, and they say, well, it's just a con, it's just to provide her a better life. Fuck anyone that says that. I have a child with special needs. I bust my ass off. I work a job. I provide for him, and I don't steal shit, you know? She didn't deserve to die. That is true. But when people started glorifying her, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not glorifying someone that did that kind of stuff, you know? I'm also not going to say that like teaching your child that this is normal isn't abuse, because it is. Teaching Gypsy to lie and to con is abuse. Whether it's an abuse you guys don't want to acknowledge, that's fine. But that's fucked up. But Gypsy herself has her own issues. And Gypsy could have decided to do something else, and she didn't.
No, and Gypsy never will because she has enablers. People who are constantly enabling her so that they can also profit from all this shit.
And she's not a good person.
No, she's not. And neither are the people that she surrounds herself with.
Correct. They're all bad people.
But I will say this, okay, as far as Dee Dee goes, as a mother of two special needs children, I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same to provide for my child. I wouldn't have gone to the extremes that she did. But of course, I have two one extremely disabled child, but what makes it hard for me is I don't think that, even though with the micro deletion, I don't think that Gypsy was as disabled as Dee Dee made her out to be. And I don't condone that at all. There were other ways she could have done things.
I mean, Gypsy went right along with it. I
Oh,
mean,
of course.
in the medical records, she's the one that's being accused of malingering, not mom. It's Gypsy. And it's Gypsy that's faking that she can't hear. And it's Gypsy when she's an adult
Continuing the con. Yeah.
continuing the con. And Gypsy needs to just be fucking honest that she had her teeth removed because she was addicted to fucking opiates and she just wanted pain pills. Like,
But was she?
she was, yes. Gypsy is a whole addict. It's obvious. The first day that she gets off parole, she's drunk.
No, why is it then when she was arrested and they did the drug testing and everything, nothing came up?
Most of
Because
those
she
drugs,
didn't look like she was detoxing
most
in
of those
that
drugs are out of
interrogation.
her system. Most of those drugs are out of the system within like 24 hours.
Well,
I mean, not everything that she says is a lie. She
yeah,
definitely.
there are bits and pieces. I agree. There are bits and pieces because that's how liars work. They throw in
She
a
had
little
a
bit of
running
truth.
script for not Xanax, Ativan for seizures that they abused. She she definitely stole her mom's Vicodin. She was found with that when she went to go get her with Dan, and Dan confirmed she showed up with Vicodin. There's multiple police reports where Dee Dee's reporting that her pills were stolen and that people broke into her, knowing full well that it was Gypsy that took her pills. So, I don't know. But the fact that she's already drinking, and she was drinking while she was on parole.
Yeah, well, we got confirmation from so-called Ryan from that last night, but I mean, which we already knew she was doing stuff, but
She's has an untreated substance use disorder, and until she treats that, the lies will just keep getting spun.
see, that too, I have, everything's about her mental health and her disorders and I think the girl's just plain old evil.
Well, she's a psychopath. Clearly, she's like got sociopathy. I told that to Christy. I'm like, she's a sociopath. She has no empathy for anyone else. She
But
doesn't know
that's
how,
plain to see.
huh?
Yeah. That's plain to see.
She doesn't know how to have a conversation with people unless it revolves around her. Yes, they blamed the neighbor who had a key for stealing money. They blamed someone for turning her in. And then Dee Dee was constantly covering for Gypsy's addiction and her acting out, shooting her. Dee Dee was definitely in bad health. And I think Gypsy wanted the con to keep going. And I think that Gypsy knew that if she left, she couldn't leave because then she would walk and everyone knew, no one knew except for a few people that she could walk. And so then she would be on the hook for fraud. My theory the entire time was not she was an abuse victim. It was there's two perpetrators in a fraud scheme and one of them is dead. And that was the first investigation that they were doing until Mike Stanfield decided to, no, that's not what happened. That's what happened. It was a fraud scheme. And she killed her co-conspirator. And then played the victim.
Okay, now what do you think about like Into the Weeds podcast received a letter from Missouri, the sheriff and all, saying that there never was any type of fraud investigation.
That's not true. They said it publicly.
And yeah, see that's where it kind of makes you think, okay, so there actually was a cover up. Because they said it, but then in the letter it says that there was never ever.
It got stopped because Mike Stanfield told them she was abused.
Well, I understand it got stopped. What I'm saying so, but there was one at one time. It's like the
There was
beginning of it,
absolutely
regardless,
an investigation for fraud. The sheriff said it in a press conference.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Which makes all this even more confusing and conspiratory because it's like, okay, so why did the sheriff's office put that letter out when they know damn good and well they said it in a press conference?
I don't know. I don't know.
I still don't understand though how anybody could see those here
What
and
I
see
will
the
tell you,
FOIAs.
so there was a murder in my neighborhood. Not in my neighborhood, but in my community. Okay. And I had an opportunity to speak to the county prosecutor because of something that was going on in my life. But then we just started talking about cases like this, right? And we talked about a case where it was a homicide and a girl ended up murdered. And one girl completely manipulated and like taunted the guys into doing it. And they did it. And the guys went to prison and she didn't get any time. And I said, that reminds me of the Gypsy Rose case. And he was explaining to me that sometimes you have to weigh the benefits of the justice for the victim outside of the, like, is it justice to the victim to get the perpetrator that did it and then do a minimal sentence for the co-conspirator or a lesser sentence to get a witness out of it? Like in that case, he got her to testify against all three of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she got no time. And so what he said to me, and it made sense, was so if they can get her on something that seems adequate, but then still have someone serve life in the whatever the justice, the arms of justice, the weights of justice, the victim, the justice is served because the perpetrator that did the brutality of it is incarcerated. And whether that's a good or bad, and that doesn't change the fact that she was involved, but that he explained like that can often be the thinking in these cases. As long as one person is serving life, that's adequate.
So in their eyes, it's a matter of who's more. Well, no, I was gonna say, well,
It's a
who's more dangerous.
balancing of like like they're running
So
it.
it's not, yeah, it's not about who's more dangerous. It's about who. It's about getting somebody on the books, pretty
Right.
much.
Correct. Bye, Ray. It's about getting someone on the books, getting someone held accountable for life. And in the case of Nicholas, even though he was obviously manipulated, he did do the crime, right? And so he is the far more dangerous one because he went through with it. But it's balancing, and then with Gypsy, they have to balance the public narrative at the time. Can you imagine them when everyone's coming out and saying she was a victim before everyone even talked to her, that they're going to put her in prison for life? It never would have flown, ever.
No, because it was spun from the beginning.
Correct. Because she's a good manipulator. If people would have just listened to the sheriff and said, don't give them more money, these people are con artists. If people would have listened to him, everything would have been better from day one. Because all Gypsy's doing to this day is continuing the con.
Oh yeah, and she's got a bigger platform to do it on.
Yep.
She's manipulating more and more people than she ever could with Nick.
Yep.
And in my eyes, that makes her more dangerous.
Ken
Because
needs
the
to
heart.
look at the phone records from last July. Why did she put out the phone records? You guys, I'll tell you something. I mean, I might take a look at that, but it's been well documented that ask anyone that was incarcerated with her. She ran a honey scam or whatever that scam is, like tricks where they get guys and they get them to put money on their books and they pretend like a honey trap. Yeah. And that was one of her cons in prison.
Well, the emails just came out.
In a video, right?
Yeah, her emails just came out. And then I think what this person is talking about, though, is supposedly in July, Gypsy contacted Ryan saying that if it wasn't for the fact that that she was pregnant, she would go back to him.
That's not a prison email. She wasn't in prison in July.
No. The person, Allison, says Ken needs to go look at phone records from last July. I think that's what Allison is talking about. But I'm letting you know, emails just came out. Jail emails just came out that are supposedly will talk about the honey trap that she had set with all the different men and all those different things. And some are speculating that Christy is the one who picked what guys Gypsy would like with Brian before Ken and then Ryan, how she had relationships with these men and different things like that so that it would look better on paper. It was more or less Christy helping her to see who would look better on paper when she got out on parole.
That's
That's speculation.
okay, so they couldn't get him to Ken had I think warrants or something. He wouldn't have passed the house test, and that's why she couldn't change the address to live with him because he couldn't pass the home whatever requirements. So she couldn't live with him. That's why she was restricted to spending only 2 days a week with him because of that while on parole, because of his own history. But they absolutely sought out Ryan for his stability and what he looked like on paper.
Right. I totally agree with that. Yeah. It was all so it's just a continuous con.
She conned Ryan. She's still conning Ryan. She conned Ken. I mean, she doesn't want to be with Ken. It was absolutely planned for her to get with Ryan and then leave him. Her whole life is a con. It's true.
For those who want to see the emails, they're doing it right now, Into the Weeds on YouTube. So yeah, they're reading the emails. But yeah. But I have to get going. I gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta get going too. I've been on live for way too long.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me up.
Yeah, I don't have I have no hard feelings with you at all.
Me either. But as far as why the Petrie train fell apart and those people that we no longer associate with, you can take what they say with a grain of salt because they're bitter and they will do anything to try and make us look bad. And it has nothing to do with the case or Gypsy or anything like that. These are just malicious people. So I will not speak bad about them.
Yeah.
But you can damn well guarantee they will about us. So speaks more about their character than it does about ours.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you take care and thank you for letting me up.
Yeah.